This is Lisa Tenner, and I am recording this for people who signed up for the Empowered Writing Plan. We started the recording in the middle of the call, but actually, I think this is going to be a lot more streamlined for you. So I think this is better. You won't have all those introductions to people that you don't really need, and some other things. But I want to welcome you. This workshop was inspired because as Robin, Call, and I were planning our retreat in January, I got the sense that creative abundance was really important. I was hearing people talk about scarcity, whether it was scarcity of time or money or creative ideas or just feeling a lack. And and that I think a lot of times having a plan in place first of all, just soothes us creatively because if we don't have a plan in place, we often have unrealistic expectations of ourselves. At some level, we know it's not going to work, but we soldier on, right? And so there's this disconnect between what we say we're going to do and what we can actually accomplish. And we're not as clear on the priorities sometimes. We think we're going to try to do everything and we get very scattered. So the plan really helps us focus. And with that focus, it's a lot easier to experience that relaxation as well as that creative abundance that really helps creativity to flow. So that's sort of how it came about. And since I had decided to make that part of the retreat, I thought, well, I better do it myself I um, before I teach it and see how it works. And so I came up with your course materials and my own plan and show you. I'm actually still working on the final plan. I did this and realized that I my math was off, so I ended up with some more space here, and this is all scrunched together. So I actually today have been working on a new one, and you can see all the months of the year there that are going to get filled in, and just a very tiny, thin title up there so that I don't take up too much space with the title. But as I worked on it, the things that happened for me is I thought I have to choose each day between writing in the morning and qigong in the morning. And the qigong really fuels me physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, creatively. Um, and doing without it, I really notice a difference. On the other hand, if I wake up and do my creative work right away upon waking and do some journaling, write down my dreams, maybe work with some poetry or another writing project. Um, that's really the most fruitful time for me with my writing, particularly with writing poetry. So I was really stuck. And once I developed the plan, particularly started working on the weekly writing plan, I realized I had to make some changes if I was going to make this work. And I needed to go to bed earlier and get up earlier. And for the most part, not really read in bed or read things that I wasn't going to try to keep reading. It was nothing too exciting. Um, no novels. So I did that. And, um, and the plan really gave me that ability to make better decisions and have a foundation that allowed me to do both. And so I don't do both every day, but I am a lot more, um, I, 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 I do both more consistently and some days I do choose if I'm tired or I wake up, right before 7 when my Qigong group meets, then, I might skip the writing those days and do writing afterwards or later in the day. But it has been a game changer for me. And then people showed up some people who were on the retreat showed up the next day for a Zoom call and expressed how powerfully their that plan was already impacting them. So that was really exciting to hear. And I've continued to hear from people that it's made a big difference for them. Some of these are new writers that are working on their first book, and others are published authors and who, are already quite experienced, but are also experiencing a big shift that's been very empowering for them. So I'm really excited to offer this to you and share what I've developed and help you fine tune it so that it works for you. And we started the group with some qigong bouncing because I find that these mindful movement and breathing exercises really help us relax, and that helps us get into a flow state. And then, you know, relaxing the body, deep breathing, all these things, and also exercise and movement have been shown to support uh, to support creative flow. And so there's a lot of science behind that, and I'll just share what we do. We do this in our Get Your Writing Done program every week as well. By the way, this is my Creative Abundance jacket, and I'm showing it to you because I encourage you to think about having fun with this. Have fun with creating a writing plan. Have fun with setting your intentions and experimenting, right? If you feel it's all these have tos, that's not going to be fun, and often we resist that kind of thing. But if you have fun with it and you're experimenting and you have this spirit of curiosity and, oh, let me try this. If it doesn't work, I'll try something else. That really makes a difference in achieving your goals and enjoying your time while you do that. So we get in natural stance, and it's very similar to ready position in sports. Your feet are shoulder width apart, knees unlocked, tailbone tucked. There's a natural curve to your spine. It will bring the shoulders up. Relax, and we'll do it again. Chin tuck, tongue on the roof of your mouth, and smile. Relax your forehead and your whole face, all your facial muscles. And you can imagine someone pulling on the hairs on your head. That'll lengthen the back of your neck. And then you can imagine listening to a sound far, far away. And what that does is it opens the heart. And then we'll just bounce. So you're just kind of bringing your, moving your knees to bounce. Your feet are flat on the floor, flattish. You're not going up on your toes or anything. And your arms are like ropes at the sides of your body, just gently bouncing. And then we'll add some shaking. Sometimes we do this a little longer, but since this is the first time for some people, I'm going to do a short version of it. And you can go like this if it doesn't bring your shoulders up, but if it brings the shoulders up, just relax the shoulders and do it at a comfortable position. Breathing through your nose and through the nose, out through the nose. And then come to standing, pausing, and feel the tingling in your hands. Allow that tingling to spread through your whole body. Feel that tingling. That's the chi. That's your life force energy. And you can feel it everywhere from your head to your toes. That nice tingling feeling. Waking up the chi, waking up our creative energies. And then what we say in Qigong, nourish the chi, nourish your chi. So I am in chi, chi is in me. Or I am in the universe is in me. Whatever feels good. Okay. So another practice that we do in Qigong is what we call the S curve. And that's the way to connect with your own essential energy and release anything that's not yours, release any inorganic chi. My teacher, Robert Pung, says there's no good chi, bad chi. It's just either it's your chi or it really doesn't belong to you, and get it out of the way. So, this is late in the day when I'm doing this, and maybe you pick up some things at the supermarket or on the road or whatever during the course of your work day, or other people's whatever's going on with them, this is a good way to release it so you're really open and ready for your own creative work. So let's do that releasing. We're going to take a deep breath in and then release up the crown. Just send any energy out to the horizon. Third eye, throat, chest, solar plexus up to the horizon, belly, perineum, knees, feet, and off it goes. And then the perfect right chi sinks down. So we're kind of reorganizing our energy field, just kind of balancing, harmonizing our energy. And now we're going to imagine the year, this creative, abundant year of writing. And we're going to imagine it as like at the top of our head, normally we'd say it's January, but here we are in February. So top of our head's going to be February. And we're going to kind of release anything that's in the way all through the year. At the bottom of our feet is December 31st, 2026. So we're just going to release anything in the way, okay? Crown, third eye, throat, chest, solar plexus, belly, perineum, knees, feet. Off it goes. And the perfect right chi sinks down. Beautiful. And actually, I should have said we're merging our field with the field of our creatively abundant year. But so you could think of it that way in retrospect. And you may want to use this exercise again in the future when you're working on your book or working on your plan. It's a really empowering exercise. So in the group, we talked about, having a theme for your year, and you can use my Meet Your Muse exercise. I'll be giving you a link to that. And I'm trying to think if we did that. I think we might have done that on the call. Yeah, we did that on the call. So actually, if you listen to the next video, you will find that exercise. But you can ask your muse for maybe a word or a few words that might be a nice theme for the year. So my theme is really, I want to publish my poetry. I want to revise and polish it and publish a book. And I also am going to be submitting it to magazines and journals and things like that. And then wisdom, love, and vitality. Those are qualities we cultivate in Qigong. This is our wisdom center, making empowered decisions, our love center, compassionate, and our vitality center in the belly. And that's our actions being guided and wise. So that's kind of setting my intention in that framework of the importance of those elements to me for my Qigong practice. So, you'll see, maybe you come up with one word, maybe you have a few, but you can make something like that to remind yourself of your theme or intention for the year. And then I guided people through these different handouts, and you may have already started to look at the handouts or even started to work with them. So I'll go through them fairly quickly. But this is the Creative Abundance Plan and how to develop it. And the first page is mindset and beliefs. And we didn't really work on this in the group. This is something you can work on your own. And you can look at what are your beliefs around creativity and where did they come from and how do they serve or not serve you? Are they true? How do you know? And what beliefs might serve you better if these don't serve you well? So that's the first kind of exploration. And there's a few different explorations about beliefs and values around writing and creativity, and things that might get in the way of meeting this year's goals. So maybe making a list of those. It could be too many projects or saying yes to other things and not prioritizing, not making enough time, fear, lack of accountability or self-doubt, procrastination, and lack of support. Well, what kind of support are you lacking? Do you have people who undermine you, Or is it more that you don't have any accountability or you need more structure? So what kind of support, guidance perhaps? Um, and to think about also, how you might overcome the challenges that you listed in that previous question. So those are some of the things you can address on your own. And then we have the actual pre-planning. And you don't have to address all of those journaling type questions at once. You can go into your pre-plan and your planning and then go back to those questions later if you want. But we're going to make two kinds of plans. One is sort of what a typical week will look like, and one is what kind of from month to month, what we're focusing on project-wise and the phases of our projects. So page 2 is going to guide you through listing the projects you want to work on and, complete, or some of them you might not intend to complete, but how far do you want to get? And all the activities that can support those, such as classes or coaching calls or other kinds of things. And then estimating time for all the different phases of your project research. For example, writing and revising. And then if you have several projects, you may want to prioritize those projects based on several factors, like which projects support your intention and vision, which might be easiest to complete. Sometimes it's nice to have an easy win, right? Or quickest, which is most in line with your personal goals or your business goals. So you can work on that and prioritize your projects and then break each one down into various phases. That's going to be very helpful when we work on this year-long plan. And the year-long plan is eventually going to become this, right? And here's an example of it where I have different color-coded projects, and then under those color-coded projects, I'll write in the different phases. So as you can see, I'm actually in the midst of working on my big calendar lineup, but I have done these sheets. Let's see. And then you'll have a grid, right? And here we have this grid, so that you can break it down by, this month, the different projects. So I'll tell you what I did is I really decided, okay, I can't have too many things. Partly I can't fit that much on here, right? And I didn't do the math quite right, so I actually have some space down here. So that's why I'm doing a new one where I'm spacing it out more, and why I didn't finish this one. But yellow is my kind of my practices that support everything to make the creativity work, and kind of mind, body, spirit. So I've got my Qigong practice, mindful movement and breath and meditations. Then I've got sleep. So what happened was, now I can't remember if I told you this before, but what happened was I thought I have to choose between Qigong or writing as first thing in the morning. And if I do one, I really don't have time for the other. And that's how it was working for a while. And so I was either doing lots of Qigong, feeling great about that, but feeling terrible about my writing, or doing all this writing, but feeling terrible about the Qigong. And I realized these are both really important morning practices for me. So, so once I did this plan, that's when I figured out, okay, I I could actually fit both, but I have to get to bed earlier to make that work. And that was my breakthrough. And so I've been going to bed much earlier than I used to, and I'm still working on making it even earlier, but I've been much more consistent, and it's given me time some days to do both, and some days still a work in progress, but big difference from where I was. And so, yellow is just going to be Qigong sleep, and that's that new sleep time and new wake time, and then walking, probably 5 days a week. So that's my foundation, right? It's not the actual creativity. It's not the actual writing projects, but it's really important to do these for my life to work. So they're in the plan, and I encourage you to do that as well, any foundational practices. Then the orange is my big writing project for the year, and that's my poetry. And the poetry really has two aspects to it. One aspect, I'm going to close this. One aspect to the poetry is submitting to journals and submitting to contests and submitting to lit mags. And the other aspect is putting my book together. And so I've done some of the pieces of the book. I've edited my poems. They're almost all edited. I have chosen some and just and taken some out, but I still have some decisions to make there, and I have to figure out the structure of the book. So, so that's the other reason that I didn't finish this, because I was trying to figure out, okay, how is this going to work, and when am I going to do which phases? And here I was thinking I would just work on the book for the first half of the year. Second half of the year, I start submitting. And then I decided, you know what? That feels to me backwards. I think I actually want to be submitting now and make that the priority. And then the book is going to be a little bit more in the background, and then bring that forward later on, not quite as late as this, but later on in the year, be doing both simultaneously. And then I have another poem that I think I'm going to be doing a project with, maybe a collaborative project. And that feels really exciting. But I realize that poem doesn't go in the book. So that, it may be that you're still working on from one of these, like I am, until you quite figure out what your year is going to look like. That's totally fine. But just doing this exercise, you start to get clearer and clearer. So again, you've got, the weekly plan, and that I would do that first. And, every week may be a little different, but it's great if you can say in general, you know, 6:30 to 7, I'm journaling and writing, and 7 to 8:30, I'm doing my qigong, and then I might go back to writing, but kind of really scheduling it out for the week. And then I have the times that I'm teaching my writing group, and those are times that I can also often write because everybody else is writing. Um, so just kind of putting everything in here in a typical week. What is my schedule going to look like? And that is very helpful. You may also realize, what, the next 2 months, my schedule can be X, and then it's going to be really different. We'll print out another of these sheets and have what it's going to look like for the next 2 months. And the next 2 months, you can keep updating these based on what's going on in your life and your projects, because your projects are going to be changing to different phases, and that can affect how you want to be working on them too. So that's really, kind of taking us through page 2 of your pre-plan, the projects, the priorities, and filling out your weekly plan and your month-to-month plan, for your whole year. It happens in each month, and that's on page 3. And you don't have to do this all at once, right? So, see, and then the last thing is to create the big plan, and you just want to do the math right, so you don't end up with this, but you end up more with this, which has a lot more room for each month, see? And let's see. So that's going to be your great big plan. And, I have all kinds of fun stickers. Show you some of the stickers. But I've got these stickers that, for people who come to the retreat can like play around with. Oh, there's some other fun ones that I think are somewhere else. But anyway, you play around um, with your plan, so it looks fun. And I also have some circular die cuts, and then I've got these die cuts, and I just use some glue stick to stick these on. And those are nice too, because if you decide middle of the year, oh wow, you know what? Like I don't want to do it that way, you just rip it off. Like the glue stick is not super sticky, so it's easy to change your mind. So those are some thoughts for, getting your plan done. And let's see what else. If you want, before you listen to the Meet Your Muse, which is going to be on the next audio, if you want, you can do some brief writing about, what are your most important projects for this year. Maybe just make a quick list. And I always like writing by hand. You can also type, but a quick list of your important projects and maybe why they're important to you, because you are going to prioritize. And then creative challenges, right? What are the challenges we talked about? Consistency, self-doubt, time management, boundaries, saying no to things and people. Write them all down. And you can go back to those prompts on page 1 if you want for more detail. And then also, what would feel amazing to accomplish? Like what, if you really had to simplify. So for me, it's like, it would be to have my book at the end of the year and to have maybe a few poems accepted somewhere. Uh, and let's see. Yeah, and I think I might be working on some other projects, some journaling projects too, like creating some journals, so books that help people journal or prompts books. But that's like a lower priority. So maybe I would start that in the fall, and it would be something that if I don't get to it, it's no problem. Okay, so uh, I think for now, either go to the next video and you can listen to the Meet Your Muse exercise and play with that. Or if you want to just go right to doing some of these exercises in the Creative Abundance Plan, go ahead and start in page 1, or you can go right to page 2 and start there and have fun with it. And if you have questions, feel free to email me if any challenges come up. And for those who can make it next week, I look forward to seeing you on next week's call. Thanks.